Okay, well, look, welcome everybody. I just want to say right at the very start of this that it's absolutely fantastic that Richard's come on to have a chat. And we're not going to turn this into a pissing competition between the pair of us. We are doing this for everybody that is in lockdown, and 8-9 weeks now. I can't remember 3 bank holidays, and you certainly wouldn't be able to remember 3 bank holidays where we haven't shot. So we're just going to have a chat. Hopefully people can glean some very good information and some interesting stuff about the pair of us that perhaps they don't know. I'm certainly looking forward to having a chat, and we'll just take it in a nice steady trundle. Starting with what have you been up to?
Well, to be honest, I've not even missed picking a gun up for however long it is now. I think the last time I looked on the CPSA website earlier today to see the last time I shot a clay, which was the 15th of March. So I don't think I've ever gone this long since I was 8 years old without shooting a clay. And I've not really missed it, to be honest. I've been busy at Owls Lodge. We've done a lot of work down there over the lockdown with some improvements and stuff. And to be honest, we wouldn't have had a chance to do half the stuff that we have done if we hadn't have been closed for this long. So, on the flip side of it, for that, reason, it's been worthwhile, having the time to do it.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same as you, although I am starting to get a bit of an itch now. Since I got back from Zimbabwe, which I think was the 1st of March or 2nd of March, I haven't fired a shot through the 12 bore at all. I've shot a few odd 20s and 30s pigeons. I've got a lovely new high-tech 20 bore, 34-inch barrels that I'm really enjoying shooting. And I've had about 5 or 6 days where I've shot 25 or 35 pigeons in an afternoon, and then spent the rest of the evening picking them, breasting them, and I've given breasts out to all the people that I know locally, and had some myself, and it's just been absolutely it's nice to get back to your roots.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's look, thanks for coming on. We've done a couple of these, and they seem to have gone down reasonably well. Everybody's very impressed at how Jamie Brightman conducts things and keeps order. So we're going to pass ourselves over to you, Jamie, and you can try and get some form of control over everything.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks, Richard, for coming along. And we all know each other. I've shot with George a long time. We see each other, but to kind of take it for granted. And then someone actually said to me, a good friend of mine the other night, said, actually, when you think about it, you are actually sitting down interviewing 2 of the greatest shooters that are ever going to live. And it kind of sunk in. And listen, we're not going to go through what you've won. It will be quicker to go through what you haven't won. Look through World Championships, British Opens. You kind of messed it up for a lot of people.
No, I mean, for both of us, it's been a sport that's given us an awful lot of pleasure over the years. Obviously, heartache at times when you don't perform well, but we've both been very lucky to have seen 20 or 30 really good years at a decent level.
Yeah, and I mean, it's well publicised that the amount of world titles, they don't just fall on the ground, you pick them up, you work hard for them, and it's I know how much work that George puts in, and know much work that you must have put in with all your achievements in Olympic disciplines, not forgetting sporting and FITASC as well. So I know George has got some questions for you. You've got some questions for George. So we'll kick off. George, I think you've got sort of 4 or 5 questions each way. If you would like to ask ask Richard your questions, would be interesting to see how he answers them.
Well, the first one, and this is not going back to school scenario, but for me, I mean, we all watched it, and we've never really sat down and gone through you winning the Olympics, which was a fantastic achievement, not only for you and your family, but for the country as a whole. Put shooting back on the map, and I know, because I was there through a lot of it, how much work and effort you put into it. And I would just be very interested to know what was going through your mind. I've been watching a lot of these sort of watch-along cricket things where they've gone through Ben Stokes's, big knock this year and the Ashes and that sort of thing. And it'd be lovely to just you tell it in your words, sort of leading up to the final, then going into the final, and then realising you tied, and what your emotions were going into the sudden death.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's 20 years ago this September, and it still feels like it was last week. And it's when I took up double trap in '94, I think it was. The first time I ever shot it was at Ian Coley's, and it was running as a pool shoot at, I think it was the UK Fit House Championships. And it was 10 pairs, and at the end of the day, there was a bit of prize money on it, but it was just something that was completely different. It was brand new. Nobody'd seen it before. Everyone was having a go. And I remember it was me and Mickey Rouse at the time, and they were paying out every 25 entries, and it was either me or Mickey that won it pretty much every turn. And I just kind of, it intrigued me really. And then started talking to Ian Coley about it. And he said, come and have a go at selection shoots and stuff like that. Anyway, cut a long story short, obviously right from the word go, it was my ultimate ambition was to make it to an Olympics. And Sydney was my second Olympics in 2000. Obviously went to Atlanta in 96. But leading up to it, all the way through the year, I felt as if, when you get a gut feeling that if you have a good day on the right day, you can do it. And I've always said that you could run the Olympics for 10 days and you get 10 different winners. It's just one of those type of events. Any clay target event at the Olympics is like that. But, I'd worked hard mentally, trained hard, shot a lot. And then on the day, after 3 qualifying rounds, found myself in, I can't remember, I think it was 3rd or 4th overall, made the final. And as well as I do, you get into one of those finals, no matter what the discipline is, if it's double trap, sporting or whatever, you can go from hero to zero in an instant. So I was 2 targets behind Russell going into the final. There was a lot of other good shooters in there as well, obviously.
Was Russell leading it?
Yeah, Russell was leading it. I think from memory, I was on a 141. I think Russell was on a 143. So, 2 targets over 1 round of double trap can seem a lot, but it can be gone in the blink of an eye. Which unfortunately for Russell it was towards the end of the final. But for me, to make the final, you're in with a shout, and anything can happen. So you start off, you're a little bit edgy at the beginning of it, as everyone is, miss 1 or 2, and then you sort of fall into the flow of it and you get going. And it's just trying to maintain that focus and concentration. But I mean, the problem, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people, whatever you do, no matter how hard you train, no matter how hard you try and prepare yourself for it, nothing can prepare you for an Olympic final, because it only happens once every 4 years for a start. That's the big thing. Even though you've shot against everyone in that final dozens of times previously, you know their strengths and their weaknesses, you know how they perform under pressure, but being in that kind of situation can, either make or break you, to be honest.
And how, with the crowd and being obviously in Australia, home crowd, how much of that were aware of?
Well, I mean, obviously Russell had got a massive, massive home following there, and I don't know how many people were there, 6, 7, 8,000 maybe. It was a sellout event.
So
and
obviously, you can't train for that, can you? You can't mimic that.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously 99.9% of them were Russell's. Obviously, they were rooting for him. But anyway, going back to the final, the hardest thing for me was I'm always guilty of having a peek at the scoreboard. And bearing in mind, the scoreboard is probably half the size of most people's houses, just on the side of the layout. So it's not really something that you can't notice. So all the way through the final, I'm really trying not to take a glimpse at the scoreboard, see where I am in relation to everyone else. All I was trying to do was just think about the next pair of targets all the time. And it was all going, I think I missed 4 targets in my first 15 pairs. Then got on a run, and I was on the home straight, and I think I killed my last 10 pairs. But going back to Russell with 5 pairs to shoot, he was 4 targets in front. So then obviously he starts to maybe think of the end result, which is only 10 shots away. And I remember hearing the buzzer go, and I thought, oh, hello. And I hadn't noticed it for anyone else really the whole round. But Russell got quite a distinctive call, and I heard his call, and I heard the buzzer go, and I thought, hello, he's just missed one. Another pair went round, comes back to Russell, missed another one.
And were you looking then at the floor, or were you looking out in the range?
I was looking out, because I would always look out, get my whole points on the next pair, and I'd always make sure I watched as many pairs as I could after I'd moved stations to get absolutely bang on the whole point. Anyway, then I think we got 3 pairs left to shoot. Russell's on peg 3, which in theory should be, the easiest peg.
Yeah.
And he closes his gun, puts it in the shoulder, pauses, drops his gun. I mean, I didn't know any of this until I watched it back afterwards, but obviously this is what happened. And Russell's probably going to hate me for reminding him, but he closed his gun, put it in the shoulder, paused, dropped his gun, waited for 3 or 4 seconds, put it back in his shoulder, called for the pair, and he missed the pair. And I'm telling you now, 10,000 Australians going, makes quite a lot of noise. And obviously from from that reaction, you could tell that something obviously quite dramatic had just happened to the placings. Anyway, 2 pairs to go. He shot his next pair, killed them. I shot my next pair, killed them. Last pair, after I'd killed my last pair, I heard a cheer. And this is before I looked round at the scoreboard or anything. And after I opened my gun, I turned around, looked at the scoreboard, and it gives you a running total of the positions where you're at. And there was my name with 187. That was my score out of the 200. And next to it was number 1. And there was still, I forget who else was still to shoot. There was one other guy, and then Russell still got to shoot his last pair. And I looked down to Russell's name, and he was on 185, and he's still got a pair to shoot. Who was third? I can't remember who was third. It's gone out of my mind now. Anyway, he killed his last pair. He finished 1 behind, 186. So Russell needed to break his last pair of targets to tie with me, which he did. So, I mean, I was absolutely delighted because whichever way it went, I'd got a medal. And I'd gone to Australia hoping to get a medal of any colour. And I was in a position to have done that. So, for me, that was a massive, massive relief to have got to that stage. And then obviously there's all the rigmarole of everyone, trying to clear the range for a sudden death shoot off, which happens within 2 or 3 minutes. They don't hang around. They want to get these things over and done with.
And were you able, between the end of the shoot off and the death shoot off, did you just keep to yourself, or did you go and see Peter Terry, or who did you go and see, or what did you do?
Yeah, Peter was there, Ian was there, Coley, he was there. I had a quick chat with them, and Peter, he was my sports psychologist, for those of you who don't know, who was an absolute fabulous man to work with. He just said to me, just keep doing what you're doing. He said, don't worry about it. Go out there and just do your stuff. And then we tossed the coin as to who went first. Russell won the toss. He chose to go first, which, I think I would have done the same if I'd have won the toss. Obviously, pair for pair, both shooters start on peg 1. Russell steps up to the peg, calls for his targets, kills the first one, misses the second one. And I just thought all my Christmases had come at once. I really did. I thought, this just does not happen. Anyway, Muggins goes in, kills one, misses one. And I just watched my Olympic gold medal fly across the field. And I thought, that is it. Which really was wrong, because that was not the right thought to have had at that particular time. Anyway, pulled myself together. Russell, by this time, is on peg 2. And I thought to myself, no way in the world is he going to miss another target. Sure enough, 5 seconds later, calls for his targets, kill, loss. And then I just thought to myself, just don't do anything stupid. You've done this a million times before. Just break another 2 clays. And I went in there, and it was like I was just on autopilot. Didn't think about it. I didn't worry about where I put my gun for my hold port or anything like that. It just happened, and it just flowed, and that was it. And obviously hit the pair, and that was my Olympic gold medal.
The rest is history. Well, look, it's fantastic, and I Peter was around when we were shooting double trap a bit together. Peter was around then, and I can categorically say he was just one of the best blokes you'd ever meet in your life.
Yeah,
a proper bloke. I can see why you got on, and I saw over a period of time how much an influence he was with you. For me personally, I would look at things and analyse them and everything else, but I've never really almost had a belief in a sports psychologist, whereas I've seen him work with you, and it's all very well people turn around and say, oh, no, it doesn't work, and this and that and everything else. I've seen it work.
Yeah.
Absolutely seen it work. If you believe in it and you want to, I've seen him work with you, and it is astonishing. I mean, a lovely guy with it, and look, you think it's nearly 20 years and we've never really spoken about that. It's a lovely story to hear. Lovely.
Yeah, and because I talked to Ian Coley about this quite a lot, and I said to Ian, look, I haven't got a problem breaking the targets. I can do that in my sleep, but I can't concentrate. And I'd always found that was what let me down, and it can be the most stupid thing come into your head that will, and especially, with double trap, it only takes one, you can shoot 10, 12, 15 pairs on the bounce, not a problem. You miss one, and then the rot sets in.
What, George shot 10 or 15 pairs on the bounce?
I think I did see it happen one day.
I don't know what day that was, Richard.
You talk about
when we go to a sporting shoot and we go around the corner, there's a pair going away. It goes all white.
Can I just say, you are in control at the top. We just speak when you're asked to be spoken to.
Yeah, I mean,
any interjection from you is needed. I would just say on the double trap thing, very, very interesting what you say, and I always from me, because you turned around and said the first time you ever shot double trap was '94. I won a World Cup event in Fagnano at double trap and set a new world record in '93. That was before you started shooting it.
Yeah.
I just went out there with a sporting mentality, and I thought it's a pair of going away targets, smack, 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 smack.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you needed to kill them, I almost felt that because you were on a line, and it took sometimes, if you've got some really slow people on there that have been really anal with their, gun position and how they called and the length of time they took and everything else, sometimes a layout could take half an hour. And because my mind would wander, the chimp would get to me, and you'd turn around and say, all of a sudden they become hard.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's exactly right.
And if I've broken it down, I'm sure, and I've looked back on it, trying to think about it countless times. Jamie and I have spoken about it. And there isn't a person on the planet that hasn't got the ability to go out and shoot the Olympic disciplines, because they're set wherever they are in the world. It's just having the ability to concentrate and do it time upon time upon time again. And I think that if I'd carried on with my sporting mentality, which was just go out and do it, it would have been a lot better than trying to actually be the machine that you turned into to actually go and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a head game. It doesn't take anybody really. You give anyone 10 or 15,000 shells and say, go and learn to shoot it, and they'll do it. But then, like you say, the chimp on your shoulder starts whinging in your ear, and that's when it can go downhill rapidly.
Oh, and can it? I mean, that game is just mind-blowing. When you get right up there and you think, I really feel as though I've got this sus now, and then you just start going and your timing's off a millisecond, and away they go, and away they go, and away they go.
Yeah.
And you think, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Did you ever shoot it after they put the delay on it?
No.
Yeah. No, that kind of messed with people's heads for a little bit as well. But anyway, it's as we all know, it's gone. That's it now. No more double trap. So
Do you miss it?
No, not at all. And I wouldn't wind the clock back and do anything different. But I was very lucky. I managed to do 5 straight Olympics with it.
Mate, how many finals did you make out of those? 3, wasn't it?
3, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But I think knocking it on the head after London was the right decision for me. And I think, in all fairness, if London hadn't been awarded the Olympics in 2012, I probably wouldn't have given it another 4 years after Beijing in 2008. I'd have probably called it a day then.
There was obviously a well-publicised move away from, I think you were shooting Beretta at the time, weren't you, to Caesar Guarini?
Yeah.
And so that would have been your first real major move, wasn't it? I know there was a bit from Cayman and everything else, but the real major move when you've been shooting it for a long time and achieved so much with it, and then go to Caesar Guarini. For those people out there that, change guns regularly or are thinking of changing guns, and they pull one off the rack and they say, I've been shooting this 3 weeks and I can't hit anything with it. Gun's no good for me. I'm going to go and get another one. I know that you had a very, very, I think did you win the Worlds in San Antonio with it after just picking it up almost out the rack and everything else?
Pretty much, yeah.
But then there was a bedding in time, wasn't there? And how long do you feel, and what did you have to do with that gun to make it yours?
I shot Beretta for 16, 17 years. And for me to change, I changed in January 2013 to Caesar Guarini. And for me, it was exciting because, it was new, it was a change, it was like a fresh start, really, mentally, obviously, as well as physically with a new gun. so it gives you that kind of inspiration to go out there and get stuck in. But the gun that I started with, which was one of their round action sporters, and I shot that for, I don't know, 4 years, I think it was. It handled completely different to the DT10 that I was using before. It was a bit lighter, a bit more lively. It balanced a little bit differently, but it suited me. And as soon as I went to talk with Mike Mansfield and Kevin Gill at Anglo-Italian, they said to me, or they said to us, because both Tanya and I changed at the same time, that whatever it takes for us to get the guns how we want them, then they're prepared to do it. So we went to the factory, met Giorgio, and immediately felt like it was going to be a good move with the way they made the guns and their state-of-the-art factory and stuff. But it was just like a breath of fresh air, really, swapping over. But like you say, I mean, I was lucky. I managed to shoot pretty well with it straight out the box, as it were. And I won the World in San Antonio, I think it was late April. So really sort of 3 months after picking up a new gun to go and win the World Championship with it was...
Yeah.
And Guarini loved it. And Wes Lang from Guarini USA thought all his Christmases had come at once because, he sold every gun he'd got on back order for the next 4 years to all the Americans. But, the gun just handled well. It just suited me. I think where it was a bit lighter, it was a bit more lively, which just suited my style of shooting.
And what's the difference between the one that you're using now, to that one?
The one I'm using now is even lighter still. So the one,
wow.
The Invictus 5 that I'm using now, still 32-inch barrel, but it's originally fixed choke barrel, which is the first one that Guarini made in a fixed choke barrel, because historically all of theirs were multi-choke. And you know what factory multi-chokes are like, they're normally a bit front heavy. But the fixed choke barrel that they came out with was nice and light, tapered rib, and I think 32-inch barrels, I think it only weighs barrel weight of around 1,500, just over. So super light. But I've just had it teagued. So literally just before lockdown, I shot one shoot, one registered shoot with it after it was teagued just before lockdown. And then it's been sat in the cupboard ever since. So.
And a big question, everyone wants to know what chokes you were using and you've now changed to teague. Will you change your chokes, or what was the reason behind changing?
So the original barrels are fixed 3/4 full, and even on my old Ellipse Evo that I used before this Invictus, that was multi-choke, but I always used to shoot 3/4 full in that as well. But I think the game is changing now as far as sporting, compact, everything goes. You're getting a lot more targets right on the end of your gun, and especially, how many times you go to a sporting shoot now and you see a 10 or 15 yard rabbit. You don't very often go to a shoot now where you don't see something chucked on a little trainer spring right at the end of your gun. And for me, I was just every now and again just missing one of those silly little rabbits, because it would either just bounce or I'd just hesitate, just trying to make sure of it, knowing you're shooting, a pattern that's hardly any bigger than the target itself at that kind of range. So predominantly I will still shoot lots of choke, but if we come across something like that, I'll...
got the ability to change. You've got the ability to change then.
Yeah, and Teague have done me a couple of super cylinders, so I'll be spreading the lead from one side of the shooting ground to the other with one barrel.
Cosmic. Really pleased to hear that. And that leads me on really as well to the next question, which, basically you're straddling a fence now. Ever since I've known you, you've been a competitive shot, and now you're straddling the fence with the ground ownership as well. Which do you prefer? I mean, I'm sure it's competitive shooting, but do you enjoy the ground setup and everything that goes with it?
I absolutely love it. And I would never ever give up competitive shooting. and I will try and carry on and do that for as long as I physically can. But for us, Owls Lodge, we started that in '94, just with a double trap layout, only because there was nowhere else to go and train. So we got planning permission to put that in, and then really Tanya and I properly went to town on it in 2007. And since then we've just developed it, and we've now got the log cabin, the nice clubhouse and stuff like that, and it's as big as we can get it, but it's something that we've both got a huge passion for, and we've created it from absolutely nothing, which for us is something to be quite proud of, and hopefully people that come there enjoy it, and it's nice to be able to put something back into the sport.
You're back open now?
Yeah, we opened last Tuesday, much to everyone's delight. I think everyone was kind of desperate to get out and have a shot. So obviously we're following all the guidelines, as it were. But yeah, no, we're pleased with the way it's turned out.
That can actually lead on to another question that I'd got, because I came down last year. I mean, first time I've been down, I thought it was a lovely little ground, and a really, obviously you're going to make the most out of a compact ground anyway. And as you said, it's not as big as a lot of places. You're quite restricted in the amount of ground you've got. So do you feel that and it was snowballing massively before the pandemic, which was compact sporting, and it was obviously getting some traction over here as well, as in going forward. Do you see that as an opportunity where you could hold international, or certainly British or English championship events at your ground in that format?
Yeah, I mean, we were due to have the English Open Compact this year. As you say, our ground is suited to it with the kind of the layout of it. And we should have had that shoot the week lockdown hit. So that's obviously been postponed. But yeah, I think that compact is growing in popularity in the UK, but obviously sporting is still by far the biggest. Obviously, historically speaking, sporting, you're not limited on the numbers that you can put through in a day within reason. Whereas compact or sport trap style events, you're more limited on your squadding system and stuff, a bit like FITAS. But I think, the fun thing about compact is where if you compare it to sport trap, obviously compact, you've got your different rules, you've got more targets, different combinations. It's more of a thinking game than compact at sport trap. Sport trap, you're still going to be thinking about what you're doing, but it flows alphabetically. Everything goes from left to right across the layout, and it all flows in a sequence. Whereas compact, if you switch off for a second, you'll end up looking at the wrong bird, or forget you're shooting sim pairs, not report pairs, and stuff like that. I think.
Do you think there's an answer for us as a nation? Sport trap and compact sporting are quite similar. Sport trap really has no international. They say it's a world championship at the World English, but very few people claim it as an official world title, and it's not really looked upon as such.
Thanks, I won it last year.
I know, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
I won it as well, but I don't count it. But do you not think we would be better to, rather than dissipate everything, to condense it and say, let's have another international discipline, and instead of trying to shoot both in a sparse manner, concentrate on one, which is the official Olympic, or not the Olympic, the international side of it?
Yeah, no, I do, and I think I mean, you know how popular it is on the continent. It's
Absolutely.
massive. Yeah, absolutely massive. But you know, it may be worth talking to the CPSA about it, whether we try and do more with it as a discipline, as opposed to sport trap. You know, and the snake system that they use is effective. You can get a lot of people through on that. But obviously then there's more expense for the grounds with the computer systems and stuff like that. But then, you know, in turn, if more people shoot it, then, you know, you need the infrastructure there to support that.
Well, and I just think that the way shooting is going, you know, the amount of grounds that get closed down for noise and that sort of thing, I just think that if we can, certainly as well for an environmental point of view, if we're going to have to catch lead or whatever, it's going to be a discipline where, you know, all the angles are there. It would be very easy, rather than with 12 sporting stands spraying it all over the place, to be able to put it into bunding, to be able to catch it going forward. You know how big it is in Europe, and now where it's on to as a go-to must-win event. When you turn up at those things, you know, fantastic entry levels and where they're going with it. I just think that, for me, we ought to be encouraging that sort of thing rather than trying to dissipate it with other disciplines and other forms of those types of disciplines. And at the end of the day, when it comes to social distancing and things like that, if it's going to carry on, and let's hope against hope it doesn't, and we're all back to normal at some stage, but the snake system is a fantastic way of doing that, because you've got a person coming in at peg 1, he's 2.5 meters away at peg 2, and he's walking out the end, not covering anybody when he's finished peg 5. So for me, I can't see it not working.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's, it's a little bit of that system that we came up with to try and reintroduce to sporting shoots, where you're splitting a squad of 6 people into 3 pairs. So you're spreading it out, and then you are operating a snake system through the whole course.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Steve's run that shoot at Westfield this weekend using that system. And I think from what I've seen on social media, I think, you know, that's all seemed to be fairly well received. So hopefully going forward, you know, it will be something that we can, you know, like you say, if this does drag on a bit, then we can maybe adopt that for future shoots.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, we all just want to be back and getting into it and everything else. But at the end of the day, we've got to be, as an organisation and as an industry, we've got to be whiter than white. You know, there's more people at home at the moment. So whereas shooting during the week and perhaps on a Saturday, they might not be there, they're all going to be there listening to it now. So, you know, just as an industry, we've got to be seeing to be doing the right thing. So
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I'm just throwing it out there. And my final question to you, which is more of a sort of almost personal one, is clays or game?
I wouldn't want to have to give up either, but if I did have to choose, I think I would choose the real thing over the clays. But you know me, right from the word go, I was Dad. The reason that Dad got me shooting lessons was to teach me to shoot game, and then it obviously went off down the competitive road, and here we are, sort of 33 years later or whatever it is. But no, I mean, I absolutely love my game shooting of all forms, and for me, it's just downtime. You know, it's social. It's just getting away from everything. Company. You go to some amazing places, see some parts of the country that you would never ever see, and some of the things that you actually see in, you know, from a nature point of view when you're out in the field, be it on top of a hill on a grouse moor or in a Welsh valley or wherever, you see stuff you would never ever see, that, you know, by putting yourself into that scenario.
Imagine how much Jamie sees. Well, they're my questions. Thank you.
Well, that's been interesting. That's good to hear your answers.